word search. So I thought that would also make a really good video. And this video is going to show you how to do that. Now I'm going to repeat some of the material at the beginning. So we'll start off with just a very basic HTML file. This says doc type HTML at the top, and then it has HTML start and end tags. It has an empty head and an empty body. So just like with the word search, just like with the crossword, we're going to start off by making a table. And this table is going to be the grid, which all of the words are put onto. Now the table is made up of rows, and we do that using the tr command for table row. And then each table row is going to have some table data, which is the td command. Now I'm going to make a grid which is 8 squares across and 8 squares down. So that means I'll copy the table data 8 times. And then I'm going to select the table row and copy that 8 times. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then that gives me an empty grid to show my word search on. Now if I save that, and I've already got it open in my browser, and when I reload at the moment, we don't see anything. That's because we don't have any formatting to say how to display this grid. So it's just completely invisible at the moment. So let's write some CSS to change the way the grid looks. We use the style command for that. And then inside the style command, to make the grid visible, I'm going to say that every TD, remember TD is table data, and then I'll use the open curly brackets, that's on the key next to P on your keyboard. So every table data, I want to have a border which is 1 pixel solid black. And I'll save that and reload here. And now we can see that we have got an 8x8 grid, but the cells are very small and there's gaps between the cells. So the next step is to tidy it up a little bit. Firstly, I'm going to make the cells wider. I'm going to say that the width of each cell should be, let's say 20px, so that's 20 pixels, and the height should be 20px. So save, reload, that makes my grid a bit bigger. And then I also want to get rid of the spaces between each box. So to do that, I'm going to change the way that the table is displayed. So I write table, open curly brackets, and then border, collapse, like that, and reload. So this is all stuff which was also in my video about making a crossword. If you want to see it explained in a little more detail and a little bit more slowly, then please have a look at the crossword video. I'm just going through it very quickly here to get to the part which is different from the crossword. Okay, so now we've got a grid. Now let's try making a word search. So the first thing I'll do is I'll create a couple of questions. Now in a word search, the questions don't need numbers. So whereas with the crossword, I used OL for ordered list, here I'm going to use UL for unordered list, or unnumbered list, sorry, I should say. And then this is just going to contain some clues for the words you have to find. So for example, let's have a clue about how about a way of counting using only 0 and 1. So hopefully you guys can think what the answer would be there. I'm going to put it into my word search. So I'll make sure I've got enough space. Maybe I'll start here. So B I N A R Y, and then save that and click reload. So a way of counting using only 0 and 1, and the clue or the word is going to be hidden here, binary. Okay, now what I want to do is to fill in all of the empty squares with random letters. Now I could go in here and just put random letters into each square, But what I'm actually going to do is, to save myself a little bit of work, I'm going to use JavaScript to fill in those random letters. So if you've watched the crossword video, you might remember that to enter JavaScript, we type script as an HTML command, and then of course I need /script. And then in the space, I'm going to write some JavaScript code. Now, again, you guys don't have to know JavaScript code as part of this course. It's not in the IGCSE, so I don't particularly want to spend too much time looking at JavaScript. For us, Python is more important, but at the same time, it is really useful in everyday life to know some JavaScript, because obviously lots of people do web programming. So I'm going to write a little bit of JavaScript code, and you could just copy it in, and as long as you copy it correctly, it's going to work. If you want to know a little bit more about it and you want to study a little bit more JavaScript, that is great, and please feel free to ask me if you need me to explain something in a bit more detail. So I'll write window.onload equals function. This makes me run some JavaScript code when the web page is loaded. And then what I want to do is go through every TD in my page. So I do that like this: document.query select all TD. So that's going to go through all of the different TDs in my page. Now, if text content, that's the text written inside the TD, is just empty, then I'm not going to do, oh, hold on, sorry, no, wrong way around. If the text content is empty or is not empty, I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to leave it how it was. It's only if the text content is empty that I want to do something. So then if the text content is empty, what I want to do is make a random letter. And then I want to put it into the TD. So text content equals string.from char code. Maybe I'll use a capital C, it's a bit neater, isn't it? Okay, now hopefully this is going to work. Let's just reload. There we go. So I do still have the correct word in here. You can see binary is still there, but it's filled up all of the empty squares with random letters. Now, they're not really aligned to the center, so I think I'm going to just move them into the center to make it look a little bit better. Okay, so that looks neater. Now, what I would like to be able to do is to click on squares to highlight words inside the square. So we can do that as well. And this is also just a little bit of JavaScript. So I'll make a space up here, and then I'll say node.onClick. So this is writing some program code which will happen if you click on a square with the mouse button. And then I'll say if node.className equals empty text, empty string, then node.className equals selected. Else node.className equals empty string. So what this is going to do is it's going to see if the class name of the TD, if the name is selected, then it's going to get rid of the selected, and if it's not selected, then it's going to set the selected. So what that means is that when I click on the square once, it's going to make the square selected, and if I click on it again, it's going to unselect the square. Now, that should work, but at the moment we won't actually see any effect from selecting the square. So to make it show when a square is selected, I write td.selected. And then, for example, let's change the background color to green if a square is selected. And if I click on the square now, I can just highlight letters. If I want to find an answer, then I can go binary by just clicking on the different letters to highlight it. I think that green is a little bit dark, so I'm going to use a lighter green. Let's try lime green. There we go. That's much brighter. Okay, so now one thing that I don't like very much is that when I hover over it, it shows me the cursor for writing text, and what I really want is the cursor for clicking on things. So I can change that if I put cursor and then pointer like that and reload, and now it gives me a hand for or a finger for clicking on things. So I think that's more natural. That gives you a visual clue that you can click on letters in order to highlight them. That hopefully gives you an idea for how you can create a crossword. Now we could write even more advanced JavaScript code to do things like detecting when a whole word has been highlighted, maybe have a counter which shows how many of the words you found so far. Yeah, I could write a bit of code for that as well, but it's already getting quite long. And like I said, I don't want to spend too much time looking at JavaScript because that's not something that you guys have to study at this stage. So I hope that gives you an idea for how to develop a word search. Obviously, there's loads of ways you can style this. I think I definitely want to have a heading. And then maybe we can give the heading some different styles, font family, cursive, color, I don't know what color, blue maybe. And let's put it in the center, text align, center, reload. Yeah, there's lots that you can do with this, but hopefully that gives you an idea for how to start developing your word search.